Hello, friends, and welcome. I've been waiting for this day. I'm so excited. Terry is here. Hi, Terry.
Hi, Amber, my friend.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so we met at Kathy Heller's house, right? A couple years
But
ago.
yeah, I was going to say it's probably 5 years ago now.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Wow. And I remember in that room, one of my favorite moments was like you and I were like the no bullshit people. And remember that? We were like, there were some questions being asked, and you and I were just kind of looked at each other and we were like, and I was waiting. I was like, I'm just going to wait for Terry to answer this one. And I see you as like my really wise big sis. And
Mm.
I feel that energy from you that like there's a no bullshit zone with you that comes from a deeply loving true place. And I love that. I love that about you. And I also know that that has been earned on your life journey. And so I want to have you, obviously people are like, tell me your story. I want to sort of invite you to tell the story in the way that I just described you. Like, how did you become the you that's sitting in this chair today?
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that beautiful reflection because I love it and find it flattering and it resonates as true for me. I am the fourth daughter in a family of where my father definitely could have used some sons. So really didn't, he was not like a good girl dad at all. But I had an amazing and still have an amazing mother. And so I really do think that part of how my life has gone the way it has and who I've become is that there was always so much love. There was always so much. I always felt incredibly considered by
Mm,
my mother and my sisters. So you have a lot of conversations people will have about families with sibling rivalry, but I didn't have that. I had the experience where I was everybody's favorite, all my sisters and my mother. And I can remember my earliest memories of my mother bending all the way down to me being a little kid and her being like, wait, you don't want to wear that sweater? Oh, it's itchy. Oh, you don't have to wear that, honey. Just
mm,
no, just take it off. We'll find you some. No problem. But like her being like, what are you saying? Because you are important. And so I grew up, even though I definitely have a father wound for sure,
mm,
but I grew up with this so much love that when it comes to other women in particular, I have such an abundance
mm,
of love, support, and bandwidth. And it's the most natural place for me to be. Women have been an incredible, I mean, I definitely was like, when I was younger, I was like, are you sure you're not gay? I'm not. But it's just, I have this love affair with the
mm.
women in my life. I've had the same friends since Nixon was in office, and that's not a lie. You weren't even born yet. When I was friends with my grammar school friends that I still travel with, we've been friends. I mean, I'm 61. So I've been friends with many of these people for 55,
Yeah.
56 years. So I don't know. I think that having a lot of love in my life, even though I've had lots of struggles and lots of loss, I'm a cancer survivor. I've been held up at gunpoint. Like I've certainly had experiences in my life that are not great. But speaking directly to
Mm,
why am I the way I am, in particular with other women, is because I had such incredibly generous women in my life always, and then went into having this professional group of women. I've been friends with Chris Carr for many years. Some people will
mhm.
know her. She's written many books, but we were friends when I was a talent agent and she was an actor. And then at her 40th birthday, she invited like 15 of these powerful women. And some of them I knew, like Gabby Bernstein, I'd known for many, many years. I mentored her when she was young. I was a talent agent and she was in PR. This is like 1,000 years ago.
Mhm.
But this group of women, we were all sort of coming up at the same time. Marie Forleo, Latham Thomas, um, what's her name? Daphne Oz. Like there's about 15 of us. And what I learned from that group of women is that entrepreneurs can be each other's greatest support. And
Mm,
that I really have never had that experience where a lot of people talk about the experience of women being mean and bitchy and tearing each other down and being, but I've had personal and professional experiences of support. So anyway, it's natural for me to give it because I've had a lot of generosity thrown at me in this
mm.
particular lifetime.
And it also makes me think that then because of this, this is what you're looking for and it's what you're expecting because it's
Hmm.
the core foundational experience of your life. And
Yep.
therefore, not receiving that, I would imagine in some ways would be a little like, and perhaps you've had moments of it, but it's almost like doesn't register. You don't absorb it in the same way because there's not a familiarity of it versus. So I would love to open up on the other side of this for those
Hmm.
who have mother wounds,
Yeah.
um, who didn't have a mother that got down, who said wear the scratchy sweater and be quiet,
Yeah.
and just said deal with it. Those women, because I also know that you teach and coach and have been a therapist for those women, and you really have a deep understanding of
Mm.
how to support them. I see
Yep.
so often that mother wound coming into our coaching practices, into our businesses, and then
Yep.
you have like one woman with a mother wound and another one with a mother wound, and then how these things kind of play in together. So, like, this is like I'm sort of just dropping it here for you to kind of
Hmm.
go in whatever direction you want because it's definitely a very real experience for a lot of us.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I have a course uh, about identifying and integrating your mother wound, right?
Mm,
Because so many women are attracted to the work and to the vibe that I have, right? Because I can't tell you, I mean, thousands of people are like, "You're my internet mother, you're my internet
yeah.
big sister," as you
Yeah.
said. Like, so there's a recognition, I think, that of something maybe they didn't get. But how do we heal?
Mm,
Right? The real question is, how do we heal? And the best news is that you absolutely can. And so that's the beginning. And I think that my theory that therapeutically you can only talk it out or act it out.
mm,
So I think it's real important that we talk it out when it comes to having a mother wound. That the resistance that I see a lot with therapy clients and in my groups, mastermind group, the whole thing, is people, there's a loyalty thing for a lot of people.
mm,
A lot of the people drawn to my work, and yours too, I know for sure, Amber, are empaths and
yeah.
highly sensitive folks. And so we have this ability to have a deep understanding of like, wow, this person is very flawed, you know? And so, and they have reason to be. They had it worse than I did. Their mother was terrible too. Great.
Right.
Here's the
Right.
thing. To heal, we cannot care about that right now or maybe ever.
Mm,
What we have to care about is our own side of the street. What was your experience? Because the child within you, who's the one who's still hurting from this experience, needs to know that she is the priority. Because when you're raised by a woman, a mom, if you have a mother wound, there's so many different variations of a mother wound,
right.
right? Insecurely attached. Like, did you have a mother who was incapable of doing that early bonding with you? Do you have a mother who is some kind of cluster B personality disorder, whether that's narcissism or bipolar or whatever it is?
Mm,
There's lots of different ways. Is it neglect? Is it smothering? Is it intrusion? There's a lot. Is it abuse? Is it
mm,
psychological abuse, verbal abuse? Lots and lots and lots. Is it addiction?
mm,
Is it mental health struggles themselves? So they just didn't have it to give. Whatever the reasons are, those reasons, like, who doesn't give a crap about any of those reasons, is the child within you. She needs to not have to think about why your mother failed you the way that she did. She just needs to be able to get honest with herself. And you've got to create the safety for her to do so, which is what I walk people through in this course, where we're really looking at what happened. We have to look at our lives and go, okay, hey, this is what I didn't get. This
right.
is where, and you don't have to have had an abusive mother to have
Mm,
a mother wound.
right.
All of our mothers and all of us who are mothers, we have all failed our children in some way. And if you haven't done, don't have them yet, you will. Like,
Yeah.
this is just part of the human experience. But the question is, are you, as a person who has a mother wound, if it's unhealed, willing to do the work to sit with the understanding that it has nothing to do, your mother's limitations have nothing to do with your worthiness. And I think that these things get
Mm,
conflated at times where it's very painful having any parent wound. I'm writing a book right now, my next book, which comes out in 26, about father wounds, right? Any parental wound is a worthiness wound because these are the people who
Yeah.
were supposed to do the best for you, right? These are the people. If you're not important to anyone else in the world, you were supposed to be important to them,
Yes.
important enough for them to prioritize you. And a lot of
Mm,
times when we have parental wounds, we were not prioritized by the adults in our lives. Our feelings didn't matter exactly. The scratchy sweater, nobody cared about, or how you felt or what you thought. And all
right.
of that creates this worthiness wound that we then
Mm,
repeat in our lives because what happens, right? Pain and love went like that.
mm,
So we get into relationships where we think pain and love go like that. The point of healing is that they don't have to. And
right.
that love, adult love, can be beautiful, can be someone can consider you, someone you can be at the top of someone's list, but you have to be at the top of your own list first. So we always go in before we go out if you really want the healing to stick. Because it's not just about, oh, how do I change this interaction with my husband or my wife who I feel doesn't consider me because I
Hmm.
have crappy boundaries, because I'm codependent, because I've served myself up on a silver platter of doing, doing, doing for others. And then suddenly you get to a point where you're like,
Mm,
wow, no one thinks I'm of value. And the truth is,
mhm,
you don't think, if you're not doing, you don't think you're of value. And so
mm,
you have to walk, we have to get to that inner core of you and how you feel about yourself
mm.
and figure that out. Because when you think about like the most important relationship you're ever going to have in your life is the relationship you have with yourself. So if you treat yourself like shit, if you talk badly about yourself, if you're last on your own list, if you don't rest when you're tired, you invite other people who agree with that low self assessment into your life.
Yeah. Yeah. So beautiful. I have so many directions I am tempted to go in. But I want to lean in on the razor's edge for me that I feel when I hear you talk about um, all these things, boundaries, codependence, the, essentially like acknowledging, sure, they didn't have they did the best with what they could at the time,
Mhm.
but that's not what we're talking about right now, right? So
Correct.
like my inner coping version wants to like understand, right? So like we go so cerebral to
Yep.
understand and attribute because it doesn't compute
Hmm.
as a present day mother, right? As a present day parent, it
Yeah.
doesn't compute that these things are such a mismatch in
Yep.
experience. And so like my coping mechanism is to go to like understanding, and
Mm.
then I will go and almost like test again and then re-traumatize myself
Yep. Yep.
knowing that that's what's going to happen. It's like I set myself up, and at this point in the work I can still have that experience at times, but then go, babe, what did you expect? You're not going
Hmm.
to get a different experience, and you've got yourself. But guess what? In future, you don't even have to go give yourself that experience to know it
Nope.
because you've just got yourself.
Right. But let's break
Yeah.
down, Amber,
Let's break it
exactly
down.
what's happening there. Because what happens is when we go in one more time just to check,
Yes.
that is the child within seeking a do-over, right? We are seeking
Yes.
a
Yeah.
better ending,
Try again. Yeah.
but
Mm.
without significant intervention, the
Mm.
ending will always be the same.
Always. Every time.
Yes. And so, and the why, right? I will always say to my therapy clients, sometimes the why matters. So much of the time it doesn't.
Mm.
It just doesn't because you will never understand the other person's why. It will never make sense. It will never be justifiable. But it is an exercise in intellectualization,
Yeah.
which takes us away from our feelings and into our head. So, what we are seeking to do is none of that where we just go, oh, anyone else's why is their side of the street. My side of the street is tending to this little kid inside of me
Mm.
who was
Mm.
harmed
Yeah.
by the limitations of my parents or my mother or my father.
Mm.
That's our job, because here's what happens. Kids, we naturally take it on ourselves, right? We naturally go, well, if I was a boy, then my father would be interested in me. Or if I was
Right.
a better student, or if I was prettier or skinnier or whatever the hell it is, right?
Yep.
Because it's so much easier when you're a little kid to go, if it's me, then maybe I can do something to change it. But the truth is so painful to have to go, oh my God, it's them. They're most likely never going to fucking change. And this is like it. And when you're 7, you're like, wow, a long time until I can get the fuck out of here. Like, so we do what we have to do psychologically, mentally. Like, no, we don't need any instructions on how to survive. Like the most adaptive
Mm.
things in the world. We learn how to make ourselves useful in dangerous situations. We learn how to please and appease. We become, most of us were raised and praised to be self-abandoning codependents. This was
Yeah.
like super socially sanctioned thing to be. So we want to move away from that part. And when you find yourself sort of creeping over to the other side of the street of like, but I wonder why, you're going to, every time you're going to come back to saying, oh, right, that's the wrong question. The
Mm.
question is, how do I feel? The question is, how do I want to feel?
Mm.
Right? What is going to shift that? I had a therapist who really, really helped me many, many years ago. And I think this is applicable to mother wounds as well. I was talking about my father, and I was crying because, like, why couldn't he just be like a father who just wanted daughters? But instead, he wasn't. I wanted to be like a daddy's little girl.
Mm.
And he just was not available for that and didn't. And she was like, Tara, if you continue to like want him to be a different person, like
Mm.
literally a completely different person, I want you to visualize that it's kind of like you just smashing your head against a stone wall, like just pain comes. It's just longing, right? That's just where you're left. Like, why can't he be another person? Well, he's not. That's like saying, why can't I be 5'10"? Well, I'm not. So that's, it would all be different, but it isn't, right? But then she postured something and said, but can you feel loved by the way he was capable of loving you? Can any of that sink in, even though it's not in the
Right.
warm and fuzzy daddy package that you wish it was? And I was like, I don't know, but I can try. And so she was like, okay, next week come in with let's talk about a list of ways that he was capable of
Yeah.
showing you consideration or love. And there was a couple of things that I could point to. He paid for my undergraduate school, so I didn't have any loans. He fixed my teeth, right? He taught me how to save money in an IRA. He said, strap in. When I left his house, my parents were divorced, so I would go visit him. All right, that's what I came up with. Those were my 4 things. And then she really challenged me, like, can you see that even though it's through duty that he does it, can you?
Mm.
And she, because I was young, when I was having this conversation, I thought everyone's parents, right? I was also privileged. I didn't realize how lucky I was to have a father who could afford. I mean, listen, it wasn't $1 million like it is now. It was probably, I don't know, $15,000 a year, but still. Um, so that might be something that could be helpful in is sort of changing the lens, but I could only do that after I healed the wound. I could only do that after I had really gone in and said how hard it was to have a father who just wasn't interested. I had this whole story that it was because I was born the wrong gender that I firmly believed until years later. I think I was in my 30s, and my mother was like, Tara, you say this, but your father never said that. Like, I don't think it's true. And she said, I think he would have been equally uninterested in boys.
Mm.
And I was like, oh my God, I know why I made up that story, because it was so much better to be the wrong gender than to just be uninterested in, right?
Yes.
All the things that we do to protect ourselves.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that story.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's been a big zone for me too, is to understand that we all have our own love language, and that does come also from millions of different reasons, but
Hmm.
I've been able to find that in my mom's cooking and in the sweaters she makes for my kids and all the little thoughtful things that are her way, you know. Even
Yep.
the stuff that you know you receive as a gift that you're like annoyed by. It's an expression, you know, it's an
Right.
offering and it's thought and it's care. And
Yep.
so then it's kind of like, hey, check yourself. You know, what's that about? And so that's been a powerful process for sure.
Mm.
Really,
Yeah.
really powerful. I want to ask you a question. I feel like I've been wanting to ask you this question for years about boundaries because I hear
Hmm.
people talk a lot about boundaries, and you've written an entire book about it, The Boundary
I have.
Boss. And one of the things that kind of triggers me, I don't know if it's a strong word, but it sort of like tweaks me out when I hear people saying like I have boundaries and they're like using their boundaries. And I often say to myself, is it a boundary or is it just work you're not willing to do?
Hmm.
And I feel like I have a hard time with this simply because when you were talking about the mother wound stuff, um, this valuing of self is my greatest work because anytime I have done that, I was diminished for it. And so
Mm.
it was like a double whammy of like the the sort of like not interested in what your needs are, but then when you assert what they are, now I'm gonna put you down for it. So
Yeah.
what I've discovered in the work is like, wow, that is very insidious for me. So then of course boundaries would feel like a triggering thing. And then when I would watch
Hmm.
women be like, I've got a boundary on that, I'd be like confused in some ways, even though I respected it, but sometimes it felt like it just felt like you're putting up this huge wall.
Yep.
And then I'm sort of like, I've just had this insight of like, I feel like there's work there. So I want to hear just what comes up for you when I say it in that way. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So let's talk about it. We'll first establish what are boundaries according to me. So I want you to think about your boundaries as your own personal rules of engagement.
I love
This
that.
lets other people know what's okay with you and what's not okay with you. According to me, your boundaries are made up of your preferences, your limits, and your deal breakers, which
Mm,
is why not all boundaries are created equal. They're
right.
still important, right? So your preference matters because this is how people know you, right? Like, I want to know your preferences as your friend.
Mm,
It's like
mm,
they're important things, but a preference is not the same as a deal breaker,
right.
which is something where you go, nope, like there is no space for this, zero tolerance. I'm not doing that. What you're describing though, Amber, is when people misuse the word boundary
Right.
and they are trying to use it as a lever to control someone else, which is why
Bingo.
you respond the way that you do, especially if it was done that way to you. You asserted yourself and then you were smushed for it. So it's someone dominating you
Mm,
with their quote unquote boundary. But here's the thing, if it's really a boundary, it's more about them than it is about you. So when you think about setting boundaries, and someone will say this is an ultimatum, and maybe it is. I had a client
mm,
who was married to someone who'd been in recovery for a long time. And during the pandemic, they fell off the wagon. And she was like, here's the thing, I never knew this person as a drinker. I'm not interested in being with someone with an addiction problem.
mm,
So you got 3 months to get fully back in program, blah, 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 blah. And if you don't, like that is a deal breaker for me. That is the end of the relationship. So that's an example
mm,
of what that was. Some people would say, well, she's saying my boundary is you stopping drinking. And that's not it. She's saying my boundary is that
mm,
you
mhm,
keep the commitment you made when we got married, that you would stay sober because that was a commitment, and that I, what I will do, right? Our boundaries are what I'm doing if you trample on my boundary that I've told you what it is,
right.
right?
Clearly communicated. Yeah.
Clearly communicated. And so much of the time people don't. So, of course, that's
Right.
a lot of what I'm walking people through in the book and the course that I have.
Right.
How do we clearly communicate without feeling like we're being, people are so worried, women in particular, and the myths around boundaries is that if you have good boundaries, that you're a bitch, that you're mean, that you're caustic, that
Mhm.
you're selfish, blah, blah, blah. No, none of those things are actually true because we can always set boundaries with kindness. We
Mm,
can always set boundaries with love and with a little more heat when it's like Bob from accounting. You know what I mean? Like it
mm-hmm.
depends on who it is
You know
and
what's
what the
coming up for me as you're
situation
speaking about this is that
is.
I've had a lot of really dysfunctional people in my life, in my family lineage, who definitely have
Mm,
had some mental illness stuff
mm,
going on. I've had some like neighbors along the way, and it's felt so familiar that boundaries are completely disrespected. And so
yep.
that's why it's really it's been confusing for me. So I
Yep.
love this like rules of personal engagement, and I know how to do that. And people, my clients say to me all the time, you have such good boundaries. Like, I know that you are not going to listen to a Voxer that I send you when you're not able to. I'm like, you will never have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to apologize. Just know I'm never going to engage with something you're sending me unless it's an appropriate time for me to do that, and
Yep.
it's just very clearly laid out. Um, but some of these other like personal life things, it gets
Yes.
wigglier. Yeah.
Yes. So let's talk about that. So what do we do? Right? Because
Mm,
it's what you're describing, Amber, is very common,
right.
where you could have good boundaries at work, right?
Yeah.
Because you're sort of setting that. What gets activated when you have a weird neighbor who is a boundaryless wonder is
Yeah.
the kid within you.
Yes.
So now it's happening to you.
Yeah.
When you're in your business, right?
Mm,
You're in the adult position, right? You're happening to them. You're leading, you're
right.
guiding. So it makes sense that
Yeah.
and you're trustworthy and you've done a ton of work.
Right.
So there's all of these reasons that it makes perfect sense. And what I wanted to say about your client saying, I know I don't have to worry about it because you have good boundaries, meaning what they're saying is you have good internal boundaries. They don't
Hmm.
have to be worrying about your side of the street that, oh, I hope I didn't interrupt dinner with my Voxer. You're like, babe, I wouldn't be listening to it
Yeah.
if I'm having dinner with my fam, but they know that about you.
They do.
So that makes you,
Yeah.
towards your clients, an emotionally trustworthy
Mm.
person.
Hmm.
What happens when the child gets activated? It, first of all, this acts as a GPS of where
Mm.
there's work to do, right? We go, oh, and I'm going to give you a tool that anybody can use, everybody can use. When we get activated by someone, um, therapeutic terms, we would say you might be having a transference.
Mm.
How do we know? You ask these questions. Who does this person remind me of right now?
Yeah.
Second question, where have I felt like this before?
Oh God. Yep.
Third question, how is this behavioral dynamic, the way I'm interacting with this person right now, right? Like they're coming to your house late at night. That's not appropriate. And instead of you're fawning, instead of having a boundary, right? You'd want to identify, like, what am I fucking doing right now with this person?
Mm.
Probably that. So we use this as a GPS to original injuries that are still sticky in some way. Doesn't
Mm.
mean you haven't done work on them, but it's provoking something that's still electric in some
Right.
way,
Right.
right? Or you'd be able to go, hey Bob, it's 10:40. Absolutely not. Please do not come to my door after
Mm.
7 p.m. And
Mm.
actually have a text message and don't ever just come to my door or
Yeah.
whatever. Whatever it is you'd want to tell Bob about his inappropriate behavior, you wouldn't have a problem doing it if there wasn't something that was provoking
Hmm.
something that needs attention. And so I love that. I just created that so many years ago for my clients so that when you're in the moment, it's so sometimes it can be so hard to make the distinction of like,
That's it.
why am I
Hmm.
why am I reacting this way? Or why do I feel this way when the logical grown-up brain goes, this makes no sense. This is just my neighbor Bob. Why do I give a shit? Why am I acting this
Right.
way?
Right.
But it's not.
That's
It's
right.
the kid within who's like, hey, I'm scared.
Mm.
Hey, I need something from you. And once you identify, like, oh my God, this totally reminds me of when my brother would barge in my bedroom or whatever it
Mm.
reminded,
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
you'd then
Hmm.
journal about it. You could do a visualization of talking to your little kid about it. You could do tons of self-care around it. But the real thing is, we want to soothe the
Mm.
children within ourselves. And we do that by having them. We do that by maintaining our good boundaries, we do that by saying, hey, I'm not going to let brother slash next door neighbor Bob barge in on our peace that we create at night with our family. Like,
Mm,
you don't have to worry. I have you, which of course means you have yourself.
that's so good. I had that happen this morning. I had a phone call, that number that kept calling me, and I'm like, of course, I'm definitely not answering it. And but my intuition was like, this is actually a phone call, but they're not leaving a voicemail, and I don't know what this
Hmm.
is. So I just sent it to my husband, who's a former cop, and like doesn't care. He will call any number. And he called, and it was actually the Newton police in Massachusetts. We have an RV that we rent, and apparently the person renting it parked it in a place that needed to be moved. So they were
Got
asking
it.
for it to be moved. And I'm like, I cannot even imagine if I'd answered the phone. I'm like getting ready in my like little magical, putting my makeup on, and then it's like Newton police. My nervous system would have tweaked so hard from that. And
Yep.
also, what it opened for me, why I'm even telling the story, is because as a child, the phone had lots of bad news on the other end of it.
Mm.
And so I like was with myself in it, and I actually let Ben help me and just said,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do this. I'm
Yep.
just going to give it to him. And then it was like, oh, everything's fine. And you literally did the right thing, because you know that would have tweaked the hell out of your system to
Yes.
hear that, even though it had really nothing, and it wasn't mine to answer. I wouldn't have even known what to do anyway. I would have to call Ben and say, like, can you handle this?
Right.
But intuitively, it was like the right response. But it brought up for me exactly what you're talking about. Like, there was a child inside that needed to be soothed, because she
Yeah.
was remembering all the times the phone rang, the crazy aunts calling and saying really inappropriate things to
Yep.
my mother, like all the trauma of growing up with a phone that would ring that had bad things happening, or don't answer the
Yes.
phone because we don't want the bill pay people.
Yep.
Right. So I'm like, oh, this was a cool moment. And I think it's to the point of what we're talking about here. It's like these things come up out of seemingly nowhere.
Yep.
You can't prepare for when these things are going to happen. And
But
they're
that's a
offered.
perfect example
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
of how, if you were unsure of why you were so stressed, those three questions that now
Yes.
everyone can have an answer would have led you to
Yeah.
experiences where you go, oh, I'm
Yeah.
getting jacked
Yeah.
because of past bad experiences. And this reminds me of that. I see that now. And what's beautiful about your relationship with Ben and your growth
Hmm.
is having the ability to ask for help, ask for and allow. Because a lot of my high functioning codependents, and I know you're one of them in recovery,
Yeah, for sure.
we can't. We
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
hyper independence
Yeah.
that goes along with
Mm.
this type of codependency, which is different than sort of your garden variety.
Right.
Um,
Mm.
because it's for, I mean, the reason I wrote a book on codependency called Too Much is because the old version didn't include us.
Mm.
This was, I was like, we need a book on codependency for the modern woman, for the
Yes.
lives we're living now,
Yes.
which is not 1970. And we're busy and we have massive careers and all the other crap that we're doing.
Yep. Yep. So let's get into that, because I think that the women listening to this podcast are just like me in what we just talked about. And they're in these careers. Most are coaches, consultants, service providers, working
Mhm.
directly with people, very empathic, helping people unpack things, helping people expand into the fullness of themselves. And coming in with a lot of these wounds, maybe some fuzzy boundaries in some places. And I think that I want to just sort of like wrap our arms around them a little bit, in that some of the things that are traditionally really challenging in these careers, when we have codependent tendencies and boundary challenges.
Okay. So let's talk about my definition of high functioning codependency.
Mm.
And then we're going to go from there. Why I even created, I literally coined the phrase because my therapy practice, my coaching practice, my mastermind group was all women like me, like you, very highly capable. So I would say to them, hey, what you're describing, this is a codependent pattern that I see. They would immediately be like, no,
Yeah.
Incorrect, lady. I'm
I
not
thought that the
dependent.
first time I heard you say it. I was like, what are you talking about? Codependent? No, I'm not. I'm an
Yep,
independent woman, Terry.
that's correct. That's what everybody says. And they're like, everyone's dependent on me. I'm making all the dough. I'm
Yeah.
making all the decisions. I'm doing all the fucking emotional labor. What are you talking about? Which made me realize, oh, my clients don't know what codependency is. So they were being unduly influenced by Melody Beatty, God rest her soul, and Codependent No More, where it's like, you got to be involved with an alcoholic. We see this like pathetic woman waiting home for the husband to bring home the bacon, but instead he spends it at the bar. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Like there's this negative association
Mm-hmm.
with codependency. And so obviously, as a therapist, that's a problem because how can I help them with the problem when they don't see themselves in the problem? So I did all this research and I was like, you know what? This needs an update. And what I see over being a therapist for 27 years with the same highly capable women, that's my main people, is doing it all, doing all the things, doing all the things for all the people, and being exhausted, but being very good at it, right? We're
Mm.
so highly capable. And the irony with high functioning codependency is that the more capable you are, the less codependency looks like codependency, but it's still codependency.
Right.
So, what is the actual definition? It is when we are overly invested in the feeling states, the outcomes, circumstances, careers, finances, relationships of the people in our lives to the detriment of our own internal peace, to
Mm.
the detriment of our financial well being, our mental well being. So, what does that look like? That's the difference between having a friend going through a problem and being concerned about your friend, offering support to your friend. That is being loving. When think about the last time your friend called and was in some kind of a crisis, how quickly was it that that crisis became yours to fix?
Mm.
Like for most of us, instantaneous would be the
Mm.
answer.
Mm-hmm.
Like all
Mm-hmm.
hands on deck, put everything else down. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being a loving friend, but we have to understand that the motivation to be overly invested in
Mm-hmm.
these things with the people in our lives is, I used to think my motivation was I'm just like Mother Teresa. I'm just a loving person. That's all it's about. And then through my own therapeutic process, I really understood that any form of codependency, whether it's garden variety or whether it's high functioning, the foundation of that behavior is control. It is
Mm-hmm.
an overt or a covert bid to control other people's outcomes.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Mm.
that's what we're talking about. So now let's move it back to
Yeah. Yeah.
the scenario that we were talking about with work. Is that what we were talking about? Women in their careers?
Yeah. And our business isn't right. You're a coach. So you have a real vested interest in your client's success.
Yep.
And that can be really, really tricky. I bet you sit in these rooms and you're just like, like you're in a
Wow.
mastermind room yourself with peers. And I've been there. But I can only imagine what's happening in your head when you're listening to the shares.
But I understand it, of course,
Of
because
course
I
you do.
I was it.
Yes, of
So
course.
never
Of
any shade.
course.
I was
No,
literally
no,
the
no.
most codependent person who ever lived in the world. I mean,
Yeah. I
so
mean,
bad.
same, same. And
Dude,
yeah,
yeah,
same.
yeah. Yeah, so bad. I mean, listen, I was in entertainment. I was a talent agent negotiating contracts for supermodels and celebrities before I became a psychotherapist. And my wedding, three of the four people in my wedding were former assistants of mine. Like that's how
Mm.
my professional boundaries were just god awful. Now,
Mhm.
I'm not saying I have regrets at this moment in time. I'm just saying that, especially with clients, it is so important to be clear that their pain,
Mhm.
their issues are not yours to fix. It's yours to help them, right? You become the great GPS to help them find their own answers. And of course,
Yes.
I'm not saying we won't give advice, but when you're an HFC, a high functioning codependent, So much of the time, you're also an auto advice giver, whether the person is your client or not. So, why do we do this? Because
Mm,
someone having a problem or being in pain makes us very uncomfortable.
right.
So, the moment they share that, we're like, oh, I know a great oncologist at Sloan, or I know the person you should go to here, or I have this, or I know this person, or I'll connect you. Right. And again, there's nothing wrong with being nice, but it's very dehumanizing. And it's also kind of a little bold
Yeah.
to think that with your friends and your family and everyone in the world, that we really do know what they should do. And yet, here's the thing, I really do, in my mind, think I do know. But I just got healthy enough with my own work to,
Yes.
instead of giving auto advice, what is the first thing we should do? And this is with clients, with subordinates, with children, whether someone is 6, 16, or 60. The first question you ask anyone who is coming to you for any reason is, let's just start with what you think you should do. What does your gut instinct say? Because your gut is good. So let's start there,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Give someone else the floor.
Hmm.
It's like, you know, ask them. In the end, especially if you're a coach, obviously you're going to give someone your 2 cents is what they're paying you for, sure.
Right. Right.
But especially with children, when you think about kids, right? If
Mm.
you have your kid who comes home from school and had a bad day because he had a fight with Bobby, let's just say, and he comes home, you could either be the parent that says, listen, we don't fight. You're going to go into that principal's office tomorrow and tell them you're going to whatever. Or you're going to say, all right, tell me what happened. Take it from the top. When they tell you what happened and you give them space to do so, then you say, all right,
Hmm.
what do you think you should do about this thing with Bobby?
Right.
Even a 6-year-old. Because here's the thing, what if your 6-year-old says, I think I should go in tomorrow and crash a chair on his head? You're not going to agree with him to do that. You're like, okay, well, let's follow that down. What would happen if you did that? It's our job, whether we're coaching people or raising kids. Part of parenting is teaching them deductive reasoning, right? Critical
Mm.
thinking, like
Hmm.
what happens? And instead of the real painful part for me, Amber, in all of this of really understanding in my late 20s and early 30s, what a high functioning codependent I was, is that I was centering myself as the solution to everyone else's problem, no matter who they were. And that's so depersonalizing to other people. It's so intimacy blocking. It is so
Hmm.
connection blocking. And I didn't even know I was doing it. It was compulsive
Yeah.
because until I had a lot of therapy, I couldn't not do it. I was so uncomfortable
Yep.
with someone crying or someone's pain or someone needing something, you know?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I can really relate to that. Not so much the crying discomfort, but the feeling the responsibility to have the solution
Yes.
in every moment, in
Yes.
every friendship. And then it was like becoming friends with clients. It became these weird, fuzzy lines.
Yep.
And then those friendships didn't work out. And then it was just really painful. And oh man, just a lot of
Yes.
learning. And I think the really cool litmus test now, and you really evoked this for me to connect to that piece of like, I can listen to my friends share their experience and I can actually really listen to where they are in the experience. And
Right.
it's really liberating to not have to do anything about it without, I mean, unless they ask me,
Sure.
but what I know, like I know now, I'm so grateful for this is like, I have no authority over
Mm,
their deep wisdom and knowing,
right.
and that's the truth. That is the I don't have the responsibility of that. And even in as a
Yep.
coach, I work like that. I don't feel a responsibility to have to solve anything for you, or I don't feel that. I feel so free to be able, and actually like so much more qualified to do my job now,
Yes.
because I can just listen to you and witness you and then reflect back to you what is
Yep.
already here, and
Oh,
empower you into
100%.
your own your own abilities and your own wisdom. And it's like we're both so free in that, you know, it's like you're empowered and you're liberated and you're held too, but
Yes.
it's not, I don't have to do that. And it's like I've been set free from that.
Yes, and a lot of times I'll get feedback from women in particular who identify as HFC, like, "Oh, so you're telling me I mean, how will people know I love them if I'm not giving them my opinion?" I'm like,
Mhm.
"Well, here's the thing. Giving people your opinion, auto advice giving, is not the flex love thing you think it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Like the real flex when it comes to love is being in the dark night of the soul with
Yes.
someone in the
Yes.
foxhole and being able to compassionately witness them without trying to fucking fix them for
Right.
your own comfort. Because the
That
fixing is for your own
it's
comfort.
for your own comfort. So you feel better because it doesn't feel good for them to suffer because especially, you know, and then that's when the child gets triggered because like the child felt like the only way that I had value was by being the fixer, the achiever or
Hmm.
the fixer. So it's like of course
Yep.
that version of me gets triggered in this, and this
Yeah.
is the alchemy for me to do this work to get liberated from that. And the other like wild gift is just motherhood, and I feel like it
Mm.
is like pouring Miracle Grow, you know, on doing the
Hmm.
work because it's just everything's so out in the open
Right.
and you can't miss it. It's right in front of you, you know, in every moment.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's really so beautiful. Parenting is such a
Hmm.
wow. It is like talk about Earth school. It's like Earth PhD
Yeah.
when you become a
Yeah.
parent because there's so much
Yeah.
growth.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really good. It's really good. And we signed up for this and I'm so happy to be here. Truly.
Same.
So happy to be here. I would love to know, before we wrap, Terry, like, what are you like? What are you obsessed with right now in your world? Like,
Mhm.
what's bringing you joy and pleasure and delight in your daily life? Because you are someone who romanticizes your life and basks in it, and much like me. And I love
Mhm.
seeing you share little, you know,
Same.
snips behind the scenes. So, like,
Yeah.
tell me what's making you just feel really, you know, joyful in this
Uh,
season.
um, the beauty of where I live is one
Hmm.
thing, and I know we both have that, where
Yeah.
my husband and I spend a lot of time outside. We have animals. I have geese. I have hens. I have a dog that I'm obsessed with. So spending time outside. I also jump on my mini trampoline every day and work out pretty much every day, maybe 5 or 6 days a week. But that definitely brings me joy. I hike with my sister and her dog, with my dog. I see my mother every week. She's 88 and
Hmm.
independent, lives alone, but I feel very grateful because I know she's not gonna live forever, you know. Um,
Yeah.
so I talk to her all the time.
Yes.
And I've been writing this book, so I'm not sure if that's sparking joy as much as it's occupying I feel very grateful.
Mm,
It's a privilege to be writing this book. That feels
mm,
great.
mm.
But I'm in that last bit of the book writing process, which is like the next 3 months are going to be really intense.
Yeah.
But I'm ready. So
Yeah.
I feel excited
Yeah.
for that. I'm also watching some good TV, believe it or
Mm.
not, with my husband, which is very hard to find because this guy doesn't
Yeah.
like to watch TV ever. And we're watching Slow Horses with
Oh.
Gary Oldman. And I know it's old. I think it came out, I don't even know. There's like 5 seasons. We just started watching it. But that's really fun because we don't do it much. And
Mm.
I like to because then it gives us other stuff to talk about.
I love it. So beautiful. So good.
Thanks.
I want to just acknowledge, you know, almost like simultaneously every version of you that ever existed, but you know,
Mhm.
you're really doing your legacy work in this lifetime.
Mm.
You really are. You're really on path. And um you know, you've been through some stuff along the
Mhm.
way, right? Like you don't
Mhm.
have the grit and the ability to hold the edge in the way that you do without that truth.
Yep.
And that's, you know, that's mom, that's dad, that's sisters, that's marriage, that's life, you know, that's all of
Mhm.
it. That's sitting in that chair and listening to thousands and thousands of people
Yes.
talk about the truth of their life that nobody on the outside might have ever heard before,
Yep.
and the privilege and the honor and the bigness of in this lifetime having that as your calling,
Mm.
as what you're doing here is a big deal, and I just wanted to say it to you like that, you know,
Well, I
thank you.
love that, Amber. Thank you so much. I feel very grateful
Mhm.
to get to do it. Like I really get what a privilege it is to be a part of people's lives. I've had the podcast for 10 years, the Terri Cole show. Like I hear from all these people who are like, hi, I was 15 when I started listening to you, and I
Right.
know I'm changing lives. I put out so much free stuff
Yes, you do.
purposefully,
Yes, you do. Mm-hmm.
quality stuff. I don't save all the good stuff. I really don't, because I feel like we all have a right to good mental health and it shouldn't just be for people who have money. It's not right. I also have a free gift for your community.
Ooh, thank you.
So just go to terricole.com/HFC. And it's a high functioning codependent toolkit.
Beautiful.
So if you're listening to this and you felt identified with it, and of course there'll be a link, you can get the book as well. I also have a community.
Mhm.
So you can go to terricole.com/TCM where we meet weekly, where I do live coaching weekly. And then I have a high touch exclusive mastermind that is starting in February, which people can get access to at terricole.com/flourish if you're interested in what we talked about. If you'd like more of that.
Yeah, yeah. This I feel like this is just like the little appetizer. So,
Yeah.
yeah, download that gift, that toolkit, friends, and all the links of course will be in the show notes. And I just appreciate you, my friend. What a delight to get to connect with you in this way and to witness your work and to receive the blessing of it as well. I love you so much. Thank you, sister.
I love you too. Thank you.